Tim Priester, Tim O'Malley, and John Brice. We just had lunch with Marcus Freeman, an on-the-record interview and off-the-record gathering with him. And I thought you guys asked some of these questions. I did too. I thought there were some interesting answers, one of which was, I believe it was Pete Sampson that asked about, just the sustainability of this program, something that I've been writing about and talking about here recently. And Marcus Freeman mentioned, the recruiting, the development of depth, the culture that they've created, and the development of players, and then finding recruits that are going to put Notre Dame ahead of themselves. He thinks what Notre Dame accomplished in 2024 is sustainable.
Well, I think the most important part was a follow-up about what did that run do for you. He kind of just offered what that run did is guys in SEC country that would not have thought about Notre Dame off the top of their heads now think about Notre Dame. They saw the run to the championship game. The key to sustaining this is if you do it again, then it's sustained, because it's not that one-off of 2012 and then a whole cycle and a half of high school students don't see you again until 2018, and then you're all the way back again because COVID didn't really count for those high school students. The sustainability is get back right now and keep those talented athletes interested in you.
The guys in the Southeast, some of those recruits in the Southeast, and Marcus Freeman said, not that we're necessarily going to land them, but now they know about Notre Dame football.
Yeah, and Marcus didn't say Team Glory was why this is sustainable, but he alluded to it, and obviously that was the theme of last year. I do think it's important to note not just that guys in SEC country have taken note of Notre Dame because of the Irish's march to the College Football Playoff Championship game. Notre Dame won 4 games last year in the heart of SEC country. They won at A&M. They won in Atlanta. They won in the Sugar Dome, or the Sugar Bowl in the Superdome, and then they won in the Orange Bowl in Miami. All of those are SEC recruiting hotbeds, and Notre Dame showed itself very well in there, and even in the title game that it lost in Atlanta, they played outstanding in the fourth quarter and captivated the country in that regard. So I did find it interesting. We've all talked about it, the improved depth. You guys know it so much better than me, but where Notre Dame is from 45 to 85 right now under Marcus Freeman, I think, is his signature at this point on the program.
Yeah, Tim, you asked about the new general manager in place with Mike Martin, and this is where Marcus Freeman's humility shines through. No one person, he says, there is not autonomy in this program, and he's including himself. No one person makes a decision on a recruit or who is first and second. Who's first and second on the depth chart? That came up as well. No one person has too much power. It's a collective. And I think that speaks to the culture and the unity of Notre Dame football right now.
My question was, you're in a new world with general managers. What if your general manager wants someone Mike Mickens doesn't want? But what if Mike Mickens and Chris Ash want someone your general manager doesn't want? Mark Freeman pointed out, there's not one person making the call, not even him. I expected a head coach to say, hey, it's my call. He said, if I want a guy and my defensive coordinator, my position coach, and my general manager don't, we don't get him. It was refreshing to hear it that way. And you know what? You never know who's going to be right or wrong, JB, but you have to make a decision somewhere on it.
And he revealed that they're already finding some chemistry in that regard in terms of Marcus Freeman and Mike Martin and the rest of the staff, and certainly Carter Allman involved there from the recruiting department. But he said, we're generally able to reach a consensus. He said the only time is if it's 2-2 and I need to cast the tie-breaking vote, I will do that. But otherwise, he said there's no one person with autonomy in the program.
Yeah, some personnel information. I asked about 4 real key players that are coming off injuries: Traore and Botello on defense, and Ashton Craig and Malachi Fields, who wasn't here in the spring. But John, you had told us about an injury he had. I asked whether they would be full go, and it certainly sounds like, and he said, he really said this at the end of spring, and here we are, now 6 weeks later, and he's still saying the same thing.
That's important. And he kind of clarified, hey, they'll be full go for game 1. Maybe some guys got some restrictions on August 1st or something along those lines, but game 1 is what matters.
And he said 100% confidence that they'll be full go and ready for game 1. He said, barring any setbacks this summer, 100% they'll be ready for game 1.
The USC series was brought up, and Marcus Freeman made no doubt as to what he wants to do. He wants to play them every year, at any time of year. He doesn't care about that. He thinks that rivalries are great for college football. And he understands the importance of Notre Dame scheduling difficult as an independent. If you want to remain independent and out of a conference, you better schedule tough.
Yeah, and he mentioned, I thought the most important part was he said, he wanted to clarify, we'll play them any time of the year, because that's the question now is you're not going to be able to keep JB probably that mid-October end of Thanksgiving if there's going to have to be some type of compromise in that series.
But he flatly, directly said, as long as I'm the head coach at Notre Dame, I want to play USC every year. That's Marcus Freeman about as bold of a statement as you'll hear him make, because he's so savvy with the media.
It was brought up that Notre Dame has lost a ton of leadership, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and I thought it was interesting. Marcus Freeman, basically described it as we don't need rah-rah guys, guys that are pumping people up. Everybody's pumped up to play, but they need problem solvers, and those will be the guys that are the captains this year.
It's so interesting because we keep talking about what Al Golden said about Jack Kaiser being a problem solver on the grass. Jack Kaiser was never a rah-rah guy. He's a problem solver. Xavier Watts was a problem solver. Marcus Freeman you have to manufacture situations that brings out leadership and brings out pressure, and I think he's proven he can do that well. I will always counter with, you'll find out who your leaders are when you lose to a team like Northern Illinois, or when you win a game you should have barely won, like Toledo. How do you rally the troops? How do you get past the Ball States and stuff like that? That's when leadership really comes out.
Tim, I know you wanted to comment about the quarterback, and because you asked about the inexperience at the position. Clearly, Notre Dame goes into this season with a lot of inexperience at the position. But he feels confident that the two young quarterbacks understand the system, and now it's the second time through with Mike Denbrock.
I actually thought he made a good point. I was asking him, you knew what you were going to do with Sam Hartman going into the season, with Riley Leonard going into the season, and he pretty much countered. Riley Leonard didn't have the spring. Riley Leonard never had Mike Denbrock. We didn't know 100% what we had with Riley Leonard because we hadn't seen it all. These guys have a year and a half, JB. Now, they're inexperienced on the field, but they're not inexperienced in the offense. They're more experienced in Notre Dame's offense than Riley Leonard was last year.
Yeah, and I thought that Marcus made a great point with that and driving that home and saying, no, we really didn't know. We kind of knew. He did indicate, though, to your all's question about that is one of the seminal points of the coming months between now and when they open preseason camp and ultimately open the season down in South Florida, is they want to know, speaking of problem solving, what are their offensive problem solutions so that they can have their offensive identity in that regard. He obviously touched on Jeremiah Love, not necessarily specific as being a solution, but that he is one of the best players he's ever been around, and that he praised him for being uncommon with his ability to hurdle a guy and then lower his shoulder and run over a guy. And he specifically cited the play at USC, but you could tell that he was very clear about how uncommon. That was the phrase he kept using for Jeremiah Love.
We'll go deeper into all of this in the Irish Illustrated Insider podcast. Guys, last thoughts from our time with Marcus Freeman.
I thought what will stick with me is that the sustainability comment that he made. You can talk about, we want to get back there again. I think they have been planning to get back there again since the moment that happened, and it's a vision of how to get back there again. They know exactly what they need. He's not going to say, we got to go out and get Jeremiah Smith. We have to go out and get this guy. He knows what they need. He has seen he saw the best team in the country. He saw the other best teams in the country along with his. I think that really doesn't speak to it. I think it informs you what you need to sustain this winning.
Yeah, and for me, the last thing I would leave with is he said he's in favor of one portal window and actually wants that at the end of spring. He likes the end of spring window, and obviously he's stabilized Notre Dame. There's not been a ton of turnover, but he thinks ultimately it's better for those young kids if they're not in a hurry to leave mid-year after a coaching change and wait till the end of spring. Said he wasn't overly committed to one or the other, but if you forced him to vote, he would vote for a single spring transfer portal window.
I think that's going to be tough to get to pass the spring as opposed to
I think it will, because it takes power away from the players, and I think they'll hesitate to do that. From outside Notre Dame Stadium, Tim Prister, Tim O'Malley, John Brice, this has been Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis.